in 1950, from February 1950, they had started a bloody pogrom in East Pakistan. A pogrom is a organized mass killing and atrocity on a particular group of people. It's a Russian word which was first used because to signify the atrocities of the Russians on Jews in Russia and Poland. Now, this pogrom took a very bloody look. This pogrom, which started in February 1950, lasted for 2 months, and during this pogrom, a huge number of Hindus emigrated or migrated from East Pakistan to West Bengal. And they came without a single possession, practically with the clothes on their backs. And in the process, a whole lot of Hindu women were brutalized. A lot of Hindu women were, jaise kehte hain, lapata ho gaya. They were raped, they were killed, their houses were torched, properties were grabbed. It was a horrible time. Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee was in Nehru's cabinet at that time, and he protested against it. Nehru could not make up his mind about it. And Sardar Patel was ailing at that time. This was in 1950. Sardar Patel died in December 1950. He was ailing at that time. And it was only to Nehru that Shyama Prasad Mukherjee could make his appeal. Nehru could not make up his mind, but eventually he did something which I am forced to use a very harsh word, which was terribly stupid. He inked a pact with Liaquat Ali Khan, that is the Chief Prime Minister of Pakistan, which promised that each country will look after its minorities. Now imagine the stupidity of the pact, because it could not have been unknown to Nehru that in East Pakistan all these atrocities were engineered by the Pakistan government itself. The Pakistan government itself did their this kind of atrocity. I'll give you just one example. On the 12th of February 1950, all these things are recorded in this book of mine. On the 12th of February 1950, all trains crossing a bridge called the Anderson Bridge across the Meghna River between the stations of Bhairab Bazar and Ashuganj were stopped in mid-span. All the Hindus in the train were knifed and they were thrown into the river. What a terrible bloodbath it was. So many lives were lost and absolutely defies description. I have recorded it in my book, and I got it from an eyewitness who was saved. You know why? Because he was wearing a pair of pajamas, whereas at that time Hindus in Bengal, they almost all wear dhotis. And by dhotis, they could be identified as Hindus, and they were all killed on this thing. Now, the fact that I am particularly mentioning, this was not the only case. In the town of Barisal, in the district of Barisal, in a place called Muladi, the town ran red with Hindu blood. There was so much of killing of Hindus, all these places. And why there was killing? Because there was no resistance from India. Nehru kept on hemming and hawing. First he was Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee said, let us grab some land from Pakistan to rehabilitate these refugees. Let us have an exchange of population like there was in Punjab. Nehru never listened to anything. Only went on making very high, lofty moral statements like this is a matter of faith, this is a matter of this, that, all kinds of things. And he practically sold the East Bengali Hindus, of whom I am one, down the river. Pakistan, after the Nehru-Liaquat Pact, they took a conscious policy that henceforth they will not have any bloody riots. See, the riots were all engineered by the government. All that they did is they told the newspapers that you print this thing. You print reports of anti-Muslim riots in India. Then the Muslims will rise and they will start killing Hindus and Hindus will run. And this kind of thing happened in 1950. But after 1950, the Nehru-Liaquat Pact, they decided that they will not have any kind of mass rioting. Instead, they will squeeze the Hindus out. You know, just as you squeeze toothpaste out of a tube, they will similarly squeeze the Hindus out. And they started doing it by refusing them any kind of jobs, by grabbing their land, by putting punitive tax on them, by when they're subjected to crime, like particularly one crime that the Hindus had suffered from was the snatching of their women, the brutalization of their women by Muslims. When this happened, the police stations won't take any complaint. So this kind of thing happened, and the Hindus started moving out, moving out, moving out. But in between 2 points, in 1964 and 1971, 1964, some of you might remember that in Kashmir there is a manufactured story that the hair of the Prophet Muhammad, which was kept in Hazrat Bal, it had been stolen. Now, once it had been stolen, jihadi anger was raised, and on whom to vent this jihadi anger except the beleaguered poor Hindus of East Bengal, who were 1,000 miles away from Pakistan and who were from Kashmir, and who had no idea of what Hazrat Bal is, but they were killed. This is a whole lot of Hindus at that time emigrated from East Pakistan to India. And then, of course, there was 1971, this Bangladesh War of Liberation, for which the Pakistanis put the entire blame on Hindus. Entire blame. And they killed Hindus like flies. At that time, some Muslims were also killed. Bengali Muslims were also killed. But the Hindus, 80% of the casualties were Hindu. And the way in which they were killed was unspeakable, unspeakable. I just give you one example. We all know about Jallianwala Bagh. Jallianwala Bagh is a thing which has been spoken of since 1919. Rabindranath Tagore renounced his knighthood because of that. Now, how many people, I have visited Jallianwala Bagh. It's a horrible thing that happened over there. But how many people were killed in Jallianwala Bagh? Roughly 1,500 people. Can you imagine on one day in a town called Chuknagar in the district of Khulna, in the Upazila of Dumuria, 10,000 refugees, 10,000 Hindus were butchered, mass murdered by Pakistani army. Chuknagar, note the words, the name. Chuknagar, it's a biggish village. It was a sort of a crossroads, and the Hindus, half of them women and children, they had all assembled there from different parts of the province of East Pakistan to escape to India. It was only 40 kilometers away from the Indian border. These people were butchered, not only by the Pakistani army, but also by their collaborators called Razakars. And there's a river over there, it ran red with Hindu blood. The Pakistanis who were shooting them, they ran out of bullets, then they bayoneted them. A lot of people died in stampede. It is unspeakable. They had in one place where the Hindus were trying to escape. These Hindus were not just Bengalis, but there were a lot of Marwadis. Marwadis were businessmen doing business in East Pakistan. They had been stopped just short of the border. They were taken down from a train and then killed by stoning. And the little children, they were thrashed against rails and killed. Yeah, unspeakable killing.